All right, guys, welcome back. Today we have in the garage Toyota RAV4. And the Toyota RAV4 is in need of some struts and shocks and stuff. So far, I kind of jumped the gun here, got it up on jack stands, got the front wheels knocked off of it. We're actually going to do stuff in the back as well, but just kind of getting started. This is for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. They picked up a set of the Monroe quick struts. So it's a complete assembly with a new strut top and bearing and everything. And he picked up some new sway bar links. So we're going to get all this stuff replaced for him and see if we can tighten up the ride on the old girl. And in the back, we just got some shocks, I believe. So the back's got an independent coil spring and then a shock. So shouldn't be too big a deal. Just getting started. Let's see how it goes. All right, so can't tell you how yours is going to go because I don't know whether or not yours will have aftermarket sway bar links. So this actually has sway bar links that looks like they've been replaced before. So there's a notch in the back that actually 18 millimeter wrench locks onto, 15 millimeter nuts. We'll get the sway bar links zipped off and out of the way. They're 19 millimeter headed bolts that are going to hold the struts to the spindle. So we'll take the nuts off of those and then work the bolts out. Sometimes they have a bolt that has kind of an eccentric center to it so that you can adjust the camber. And I'm not sure if it does or not, so always take the nuts off first and then pull your bolts out this way. And then there is a 12 millimeter headed bolt that's holding the brake line and the anti-lock brake wire here on the back side of the strut. And then we'll get to the top side where there's 3 bolts holding that upper strut cap on. So let's get to it. All right, so these bolts all came out fairly quick and easy. Ample room in here to get my little Milwaukee M18 3/8 and 1/2 inch impact guns in there with a wrench to hold the back side of that sway bar link. Now we'll move up top. These 14 millimeter headed bolts that are holding the top should be able to pop that strut right out of there. Okay, so 3 bolts off the top and the strut's out of the way. Now we'll get in here and try and undo this other sway bar link. Looks like that might be a little more difficult there. Just gonna have to come in from underneath and it's gonna be kind of an odd situation to do so. It is important to note, keep an eye on your spindle. You do not want the spindle to overextend because it'll pull your CV axle apart inside and that can be a real nightmare to get lined back up. So just keep an eye on it. Make sure you keep the spindle kind of upright. Don't let that CV hyperextend, but yeah, not too bad. Just plugging away. We'll grab the new strut, get it hanging up in here, and then move around to the other side, get it to the same point, and see if we can make something of it again. Okay, so unfortunately the lower sway bar link bolts are being a real bear. There's no good way or angle to get an air tool or battery powered impact gun on them. So we're just having to go old school with some hand wrenches and trying to hold them and do that. I guess if you have access to torches, you could do that. I'm just afraid of burning or, melting the CV boot, which I definitely don't want to do. I'm just going to do it by hand. Definitely not easy or fun, but it is what it is. It's got to be done. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so I got the sway bar links reinstalled. The new links have a Allen socket here in the end and a 14 millimeter nut, which is a locking nut. So what I did is I took my ratcheting wrench, put on the nut, and then I took Allen socket in this other to hold the center and then use the ratcheting wrench to tighten them up. Did that all the way around. And now I am greasing up the new sway bar links so that we can make sure that we can give them a best chance at providing them so long service life as we can. And then we'll move on to the back, see if we can get these shocks done. All right, so in the rear, you pull these little caps, these black plastic caps here, and those give you access to the rear upper shock hardware. So unbolted the rear upper shock hardware And then on the bottom side, you get down here, there is a bolt on the back side of the shock, which we took out here, 14 millimeter. Then we'll just pry this shock off the mount, slide the new one on, put a jack under here, lift it up until our shock is back through its hole in the top, and then put the top hardware back on, tighten her up. Pretty simple procedure. Let's get it done. Just like that. Get the new hardware sticking up through there. Get your bushing on. Make sure that you're bushing it's got like a small side taper and a large side taper. Make sure the small side taper is facing down so it fits in the hole the best, because you want that to hold the shock centered in the metal portion of that hole. If the metal is touching the metal, then you're going to get a creak or a rattle or something. You don't want that. So make sure you get that rubber bushing lined up properly and seated. Put the hardware on. We'll tighten her up. We'll put the cap back on. Be ready to go just like that side. All right. Just like that, we got her back on her feet. So anytime you do major suspension work like this, I highly recommend you get an alignment done in the vehicle. An alignment's going to make sure that your tires are all running true, that you're not going to wear out tires prematurely. Also wheel bearings, stuff like that all gets worn prematurely if the alignment's not in spec. So that'll go a long ways towards, the longevity of the vehicle, make it handle the best it possibly can. Slippery roads, ice, snow, rain, any of that stuff. So yeah, got it all buttoned up. Should be good to go. On to the next project.